Dave Burkett here, along with Sean Windsor and Carlos Menares, coming in from off-camera. Sean, I feel like we're back old 2019 era doing
I know,
it's field. Carlos coming in after running the camera.
The only new trick is that the tripods actually, y'all can't see, is that they're sitting up on a garbage can, which would normally be a metaphor for the kind of game we see here.
Yeah, not
but
today.
not today.
No.
It's way too.
Well, in truth,
soul crushing to call it garbage.
In truth, it was kind of garbage early. I mean, the game just started off very choppy and disjointed, and penalties. You know, the Lions had a penalty that negated the fumble recovery. There were 3 drop touchdown passes out there, so it was pretty sloppy early. But you're right, fantastic finish, even as heartbreaking as it was for the Lions.
Carlos, come on.
Oh,
Lay some wisdom on us.
You know, I mean, it was, to me, you know, I don't just look at the score and the drops, I look at the nuance, Dave, okay? So, and this is the kind of game that, it was choppy.
That's why you and Matt Patricia got along.
That's right, we're both football geniuses.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of game, I was telling you this in the first half, this is the kind of game that the Lions can win, when it's a kind of a choppy, not great game, and the defense kind of stays in it. And they were doing the right things, by the way. The defense was limiting Lamar Jackson and that run game. That's what they needed to do. They were clogging things up, making things kind of messy. Marquise Brown really helped by dropping a bunch of balls. That was
3 touchdowns.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns. So, but yeah, that's part of it. You're gonna win ugly games. That's how the Lions are gonna win ugly if they win at all.
No, you're right about that. I don't recall you saying that during halftime. That might be a little revisionist history there. But regardless, you were thinking it, and your point was correct. That is how the Lions have to win. And give the defense credit. I mean, they got after Lamar Jackson today. Defensive front sacked him. They did a really good job pinning him in and containing that running game. The Ravens ran for 116 yards or something, but that was about 100 below their average. So good defensive effort. I guess I want to know, you know, I think after the game, look, heartbreaking loss, right? NFL record field goal to win it after, you know, a controversial missed delay a game penalty, perhaps. You know, Dan Campbell was talking about, you know, the positive side, right? And how proud he was of his guys. And I guess I wonder, is there room for that in the NFL, right? I mean, this was, given where the Lions are at in their rebuilding phase, I guess, is it okay to feel that way, or is it all about wins and losses?
Well, I mean, if you're a Lions fan or the history of this franchise, no. But if you're Dan Campbell, who's coached 3 games now, absolutely,
Yeah.
right? The previous guy would come in and say, we got to do better, we got to do better, we got to teach it up, we got to coach it up, whatever. And would do nothing to the human heart or the soul, right? This guy may be too much of that, I don't know. But look, there was some good strategical stuff. That's an award. Sorry, guys. Good strategic decisions made, especially at halftime offensively moving forward. They made it a little simpler for Goff, a little bit short crossing routes, some screens, that kind of thing. They got Swift involved. Hawkinson was sort of taken out. Raymond was involved, the receiver Khalif, right?
Yep.
Again with screens, and we're looking down the field. So it's not just the good.
Do they ever look down the field? I don't know.
He did the first half a little bit, right? I mean, and they drew the 1 PI. My point, though, real quickly is, and I know Carlos wants the time here, as always, is that it's not just him doing rah-rah stuff. They look like a football team that can adjust a little bit.
Look, I agree with you, and I think you're right, especially given where the Lions are at. You have to have some of that human touch. And I think anyone who walks away from this game can say, you know what, that's a pretty good Ravens team. That the Lions, you know, they played to the very last inch. I mean, legitimately the very last inch of this game. So I have no problem with them doing that. I wonder. I mean, I know there are fans out there who, because I saw some of it on Twitter already, was, he's going to make excuses for his team, and he's going to be happy. And
But you were Dan Campbell.
No, talking about Dan.
But he did make
gonna...
excuses, did he? He did say he could feel it turning, right?
Yeah.
And now that may be,
Jared
he may
Goff
be full of it.
Yeah.
Goff did too. But
Goff made a little promise at the end of the game. He said, "Hey, we're gonna keep this thing going this way."
And he said the gut punches would stop.
Yes, he said the gut.
You know, and I think that's right, because this is part. This season is not going to be about wins and losses. It's going to be about the effort that you see, and guys being fundamentally sound and making the tackles. And Alex Anzalone made a nice sack. I mean, just different things that they're doing that they have to, little by little, you know, they have to build on that stuff. You know, they're not going to. Who cares if they win 2 games or 5 games or 6 games? They're not going to make the playoffs. But you just want to see them. I mean, the talent gap between these 2 teams is fairly wide. You know, they were down to their 3rd string cornerback here, and that secondary.
So were the Ravens. To be fair, the Ravens were completely. I mean, defensively, they were without their 2 best interior defensive, or 2 of the best interior defensive linemen. They were down a couple cornerbacks, down 2 running backs. So this is it's not like this was the best of all John Harbaugh teams we've seen. But I agree with your general point.
Right, but they're not rebuilding the way that the Lions are. Trying to mix and match and just put a guy in the trade block. All these different things that counts. I mean, the Lions were able to tune that kind of stuff out. The whole Jamie Collins drama this week. So I give them a lot of credit for showing pieces of rebuilding, showing that they're moving forward a little bit.
Let me ask you this: Dan Campbell said after the game, he felt like this was their best effort, even if it doesn't show up. Maybe obviously you all agree with it.
Yeah,
I do. I think especially defensively. I mean, what they did against a Ravens team that just ran all over the Chiefs last week, and how they handled Lamar. I do think that shows something of how this team is responding to him and how they're playing for him. I mean, the larger question is sort of what you said, Goff, when he said the gut punches will stop. I mean, I don't know that I like that he said that, but we don't know that yet, and I don't know that we will by the end of this year.
Well, they start playing Cincinnati and Chicago, and they play
although
easier
even
teams.
Cincinnati's not going to be. I mean, they're showing a little bit of something. By the way, he put it in a larger context of what this city's been through and this fan base has been
I'm a
through.
little tired of what
I know, but I understand, but I think that's not.
Well, he wasn't just talking about this season, the gut punches stuff. He's saying for this organization.
He's acknowledging the last 60
yes.
years, and I thought, and I wrote that in my column a little bit about just how long has he been here. It doesn't take long to feel this and to understand this, right? He's been here for 3 games in six months.
Yeah, I mean,
and already he's an expert in the 60-year, six-decade run of
who knows if he'll be around to see all these
love and misery.
Gut punches stopping. I mean, it's easy for people to say that when, what is the real accountability at the end, right? Whether he's going to be here or not. But I like that. I like the direction that they're going. I think we've talked about this going back all the way to spring. That this organization seems to be pointed in the right direction right now. Right? They have to get more players. They have to get a deeper roster. They have to, obviously some of this youth is going to have to grow, and if they do that, you can. You don't have to squint too hard to kind of see what this thing can be, a year or two down the road, given the way Dan Campbell has these guys responding.
I mean, you've got on the one hand the ball bounces on the crossbar, right? And of course it goes over. To set NFL history, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. On the other hand, Jamal Charles is pushing almost like he's pushing in with his heels on his back to get over the goal line. They review it. It's a touchdown, and then his reaction. Right, as he's coming up the sideline, and I watched him, he high-fiving almost everybody on the sideline, and he's trying to pump the crowd up. And so, I know that's Dan Campbell's got a little bit of that in him too. But I thought that's worse. The fact that they were down. What was the score when he had that touchdown? Was they down 13?
That made it 16-14.
16,
right?
Did that make it 16-14? Yeah. So just that, and the crowd stayed a little bit. But there was a moment you're like, God, if they could ever, you could see those little flashes, right? What it could be like.
This defense already is going into the season, a lot of questions about it. And, they were missing Trey Flowers, one of their best players, and the whole Jamie Collins drama. I was worried.
We talked it last week. It's not drama, Carlos.
It is drama.
It's Jamie Collins.
What do you think they do in the locker room the whole time?
Come on.
The whole time we pestered them this week about, like, what do you guys think? Oh, that's above my pay grade and all this stuff.
They can see it. If we can see that he doesn't belong on the field, they can see it. Go ahead.
It's a disruption, and it would have been easy if these guys got handled the way I think almost all of us predicted them to lose by about 2 touchdowns. If they got handled that way, it would have been like, well, that's a scary thing because they weren't able to block that stuff out and move forward, and they got wiped off the face of the earth. But they didn't. I mean, they should have won this game. I mean, this is a game that it was. Even Justin Tucker said, we were listening to him in the hallway do another interview, and he said, yeah, I thought that thing bounces on the crossbar. I think it's coming back. Usually it would bounce back.
What's weird is that they should have been blown out in the first half, and then they should have won the game at the end. And you don't often say that about the same team in the same game.
Right, and they had last week, they had a lead at halftime in Green Bay. I mean, there's signs here. It's not like this team's just getting handled and there's nothing to look at. And
are you confused by this?
Yeah,
because I thought it was
the first 2 games.
Just Matt Patricia, but he's carried it to this regime now,
over a new leaf.
So it's not really Matt Patricia. We
it's
thought
like
that was it.
Have to unmask
I know.
It's like Scooby-Doo.
No, look, I mean, if we're being honest, they did get handled the first 2 weeks, though, right? San Francisco was blowing them out. In San Francisco, they just sort of relaxed, and that's what happened. And then last week against Green Bay, I mean, they played a half of football, basically, So, I mean, look, I'm not trying to dismiss what they did on the field. It's great, but, you do have to win at the end of the day. But, hey, look.
It's not about wins.
It's not. The season is not about wins. But I feel a little weird saying, that, hey, everything is good after a loss.
No, of course it's not good,
start.
but there are enough fans out there that watch this team and are relieved not to see the sad sack sort of vibe coming off that they had the last couple of years.
And it was
Whether that
super
lasts
loud.
or not.
And it was super loud.
It
I
was.
mean, the last year, no fans, obviously, but I mean, I don't even remember the year before that. Like, I haven't heard a crowd this loud in a long time.
Well, it's been a minute.
And I think we all agree here that Dan Campbell deserves some credit for this, because when you
does.
look at that roster, to your point, it is compared to some of the other rosters in the
Right.
NFL, it's not where it should be. I mean, they are extremely young and extremely thin, and they do have some good players up front on both sides of the ball, and that helps, right? If you're good in the trenches, that helps. So they're not completely barren, but they are so thin in the secondary and really a receiver and their passing game. Yeah, they have so many issues, and for them to be in a game until the very end.
They look better today, especially the linebackers, right?
Meanwhile,
They're not all pros, but
no
Better today, you're right. Absolutely.
meanwhile, what? Sorry.
I was gonna say, meanwhile, I can see it over here as sort of in the reflection of Matthew Stafford leading the Rams past the Bucs. So,
Picking them
Lions fans, I'm
apart,
sure
yeah.
they're loving that one. But all right, let's leave that one there. Listen, 2 division games coming up next for the Lions, the Bears and the Vikings, both on the road. I do think the Lions are going to get one of these games. Maybe even next week they go against a rookie quarterback in Justin Fields. Important, I think, for them to get a taste of victory, to
Absolutely.
get some rewards coming their way.
On that
Final words,
third,
yeah.
well, I was just gonna say, I thought they were, before they
I
rushed
think we have some
3,
interlopers in here.
before they rushed 3 on the 4th and 19, and he defended that call after the
Yep.
game, right, and said it was more of a communication issue.
Yep.
In the back, and you can always say that, I thought it was weirdly conservative, considering how aggressive he is. But anyway, before that,
2 sacks.
it really felt like they were about to win, and I was thinking, okay, because I'm going to be in Chicago with you next week, I was thinking, my goodness, they might weirdly be 2-2. I mean, and then it all switches, and them getting to 500 at this point is not going to happen.
Let's look beyond Detroit. Not be so parochial, whatever. But the big
No, we do
takeaway-
work for the Detroit Free Press.
Well, yeah, I know, but let's just expand our minds a little bit. And if you look around the NFL, it's going to be, oh yeah, Justin Tucker made that. But like, wait, the Lions almost won this game against Lamar Jackson and the rate. Like, that's the thing. Like, whoa, how did that happen?
I did get Michael
David
David Smith from Pro Football Talk responded to something that I tweeted out, and he said exactly that. Like, hey man, give Dan Campbell some credit for getting his team to play.
Absolutely.
I think there's a little something to be said about that, given where the Lions are.
And then again, I don't want to nitpick too much, but Lamar Jackson did say after the game, the rushing the 3 gave him the time. And he was sort of, you could tell in his voice, he was kind of happy.
Yeah.
So,
He would if they'd rushed for it, he would have just run or done something.
No, I think that's a good point, because again, we saw it with some of the big plays that they hit against the Lions secondary, because they're so young, and the drops that they had. I mean, those plays were there to be made by the Ravens, and it was just a couple plays before the end there where they got a couple sacks and really dialed up that pressure.
oh, they were, yeah.
Coming at 'em.
It was right there, but,
Story
maybe
of,
next week.
Story of the season for the
Yeah.
Lions. There we go.
Before we go, I just want to give acknowledgement to Bob Winowski's next door. He's telling us we're number 1 with the hand signal, I think. So
Oh,
we are number
okay.
1, right?
Well, they're sitting and we're standing. I don't know if that's a metaphor or anything. Or the fact that you're not shaven and you are, and sort of, is that a $5 shadow? I don't know. I was shamed into shaving when I walked out the door today, so maybe that's my fault they lost. Because normally I'd be like, yeah.
Keep the playoff beard going. The win.
Okay.
I don't know what playoff.
Once we win.
Chicks dig it.
Yeah,
I like the stuff.
I don't know about that for me, maybe for you.
All right, let's leave it there. We're rambling about nothing right now, but we will be there in Chicago next week. Lions against Bears, Soldier Field, and I got a feeling we're going to get a win coming up here before long. That'll do it for us. For Sean Windsor, Carlos Monarez, I'm Dave Burkett.